Okay, good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody is on the call. I thank you all for coming. I am Joanne Johnson, Executive Director for the Oconee County Chamber of Commerce, and I am very honored this morning to have Senator Thomas Alexander with me. He has been so gracious. I know he just got back last night. He has rushed in to come in and sit with us and answer some questions. So, Senator, good morning, and thank you so much for coming.
Joanne, it's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate the opportunity and just appreciate all that the Chamber is doing in these times for all of us. And it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be back in Oconee County in the upstate, Oconee and the Pickens area after a full day in Columbia yesterday.
Yes, yes. Well, we appreciate that. We know how busy your schedule is. And so it does mean a lot that you're willing to come and sit with us and give us these updates. You know, you and I have been talking about how everything is so fluid and changing. And so, you know, folks, if you can bear with us, that we are bringing you the most up-to-date news as we know it, but please understand that that could change in the hour. We may come back. I said that with Sheriff Crenshaw as well. As we get the news, we're going to bring it to you. So, Senator, let's go ahead. I know everybody is anticipating everything that you have to say today because everything is a little disconcerting to folks. The first thing, you know, we wanted to talk this morning about unemployment. I think that's a big issue for us right now. The first question that I had was, about a week ago, they showed our numbers for unemployment in South Carolina being over 100,000. And then I just read on the interweb, right? No, you know, we know how that goes, but they said that our number is over 200,000 for unemployment in South Carolina. Curious with Oconee County, I don't know how many are in Oconee County. Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Well, and first, too, before we get into that, I just want to, for all those that are joining us by whatever medium that they are today, that you know, together we're going to get through this. It's unusual times for all of us, and we'll be there for one another. And I look forward to being assistance to the citizens of our communities in any way possible. And so. It's a work in progress, but the unemployment certainly is at the top. But there's a lot of folks doing a lot of good things to help our neighbors. And it's really our communities pulling together. And it's been an inspiration for me to see all the goodness and kindness. It's always there. I think it's always kind of in the back that people are there for each other when they're needed. And it's a lot we take for granted from that standpoint. And I think the way that we've pulled together is very meaningful for me personally. It makes me proud to be a part of the communities here in the upstate of South Carolina. As far as the unemployment, I've got the latest data Joanne has just provided this morning for the week ending April 4th. And so they're kind of lagged by a few days there. The South Carolina initial claims, and they have the ability to be adjusted a little bit, was for that week is 85,018. And that is an increase of approximately a little bit over 31% from the previous week's count of 64,856. And get this, this is what really stands out with me from March 14th. So here we are. These numbers are through April 4th. And we're talking about March 14th. That is a 159.42% increase. In my mind, it's just hard to get around that type of an increase when there were only that week, for the week of March 14th, there was only 1,996 initial claims that were filed. So, you know, that tells you, I think, the magnitude of what we've seen in the last few weeks from that standpoint. Now, the latest figures for Oconee and Pickens and Anderson for again, just for the week ending April 4th, Oconee County had 1,178 initial claims. Pickens had 2,153 initial claims, and Anderson County had 3,224, it looks like, initial claims from that standpoint. And as staggering as those are, if you look down on the Horry County, the Myrtle Beach area, just as a comparison, they had 10,098 claims just last week. So I think that shows you the magnitude of certainly all industries, but especially in the tourism industry, and there are others from that standpoint as well too. Charleston had over 7,000 initial claims as well from that standpoint. So you can see that certainly the magnitude, not only here in our state, but across the nation.
That's astounding.
It is. It truly is. So, so we got a lot of work to do, but we got to be healthy. We've got to, and let me say from that standpoint, if I could, before we go any further, I know we want to talk about unemployment, but the best way for us to get folks back to work is for us to utilize the protocols and the recommendations that are being provided by our health officials. All of these things are very difficult for us to do. The governor has been very strategic in, I think, the way he's going about providing his orders, directions for us to be South Carolinians. But the message I would also like to share is that what we're doing is working. We got more work to do, and I hope that will give us the incentive to do what we need to do. And I don't have my mask on, but I've got it close by. But in washing our hands, but to me, that distancing from one another, that's a minimum of 6 feet. I like, if 6 feet's good, I like to kind of do 10, and that's very out of the ordinary for me. So it's very awkward for me. But what we're doing is working, and it's helping to flatten the curve. And so I would just encourage us all to do our part together to make sure that we're exercising those protocols so that our economy can get back. And that's the best way that we can help individually for our economy of the future, is making sure that we're doing what is necessary in this health crisis. And we have to depend on those health officials, those health professionals to give us the information and give us the guidance of what's appropriate and when it's appropriate. And the governor has been very set on doing that and following those directions from that standpoint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if we can get into a little bit of specifics in regard to filing for unemployment, there was a lot of questions that came in as people anticipated our conversation this morning.
Sure.
One was in regard to full-time students. And if they're working and they've lost their job, are they eligible, was the question.
Well, and it has to do with their earning wages and how long they've been earning wages. They could potentially be eligible, but it's not just a blanket for those individuals, because there are criteria under the state program that also would be mirrored under the CARES Act. And that's another point that maybe we need to bring up. While we have the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce, it really administers the state administers the federal programs. There are certain parameters that we have to work under at the state level. So you have the what I would call the normal unemployment program. So that goes back to those initial filings back in March 14th, prior to the virus. That was under the normal process, normal eligibility rules and things of that nature. So under the CARES Act that was passed, probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 in Congress, that's a whole different division. That's a whole different program. So a lot of those parameters, even though they passed it, and I can feel for them from that standpoint, it takes time to get everything in place for them to implement and roll that program out, even with the guidelines. And so with the best of intentions to do it as quickly as they can, there's still work that they're having to do from that standpoint. So as far as the students, they just need to file, and then they'll have to provide information. Then they'll potentially could be eligible for some benefits, but it's not a blanket policy from that standpoint. It depends on how much they've been working and for how long they've been working as well too.
Right.
That's another component of it that's going to be impacted by this as well. And maybe we need.
So the same question then.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
The same question for the Uber and Lyft drivers. They're wanting to know, how much will they be entitled to? But we don't have that answer. They would
Well,
need to then go to the dues website and find out, do we?
yeah, well, I think there's two things there that again you have I guess I would say, I don't know if you call them parallel, but you've got the state program that's there for us all the time, regardless whether the feds have done anything else. Under that is that program is based on their wages, so they would go ahead and fill out the claim, and then once this additional program is up and running, they would get a minimum weekly benefit under what I'd call the normal program, anywhere from $42 to a maximum of $326 per week. And then they would have the additional potential, again, I would emphasize potential, of the federal $600 on top of that. So this other program that's not really up and going yet is the flat $600. So they're doing that. So there'll be a lot of folks that will apply and will be eligible for the state program, and in addition to that, to the $600 from the federal program, the CARES Act. So those are two different, distinct programs from that standpoint. And maybe this is a good time for me to emphasize the difference from that standpoint. There's a lot that under the normal program that we run in the state, you've got other ones that normally don't qualify for that, and that's where this other federal program, and I was looking for those particular notes from that standpoint, dealing with the 1099s and the independent contractors, the small business people and things of that nature. They will be qualifying, the way I understand the program, at least at this point, is they will be qualifying under the pure $600 program from that standpoint. So they may not be eligible for the state normal program because they've not been contributing to that program, because the state-run program that's administered by the state, and I guess that's where I need to clarify, the state unemployment program is administered by the state, but it's funded by the federal government as far as the administration, but it's the businesses and industries of South Carolina that contribute and pay into that fund, that individual. So there's not tax dollars. So we had, after the Great Recession of 2008, we had to borrow money from the federal government to pay unemployment benefits because our reserve account got completely depleted and we had to borrow money. So we put into plan, in working with the businesses and industries around the state, manufacturing, everybody, a plan that we have been rebuilding that program. We have over $1 billion, or had over $1 billion in that account, what we called fully funded, and that was paid again when employers get their yearly assessment for their employees. They're in category 1 through 20 based on their previous experiences. It's really like an insurance policy is the way I would describe it. So all of those funds in there have been paid by business and industry. So you've got that plan that's available. That's where you have the minimum's $42 and the maximum is $326 on a weekly basis from that standpoint. So that program is drawing upon those dollars in those categories. And a lot of those funds have already gone out, because I know there's some questions about the website. And so you can imagine that even under the best of circumstances, having the number of folks that are trying to apply, it certainly has been a challenge for that system to work. But there's also been a glitch. The biggest holdup, or the biggest issue, has been all the Social Security numbers have to be verified by a federal system. And so those claims are sent from the state into the Social Security platform to be verified. That system had been completely overwhelmed. And so just this past Sunday, they've finally been able to add additional capacity, because that was kind of like a bottleneck that things had to go from that standpoint. And also, I get a lot of questions, and maybe one of the questions there that it may be a pending message. And again, it gets back to under normal circumstances, an employer, and this is I think very, very important for us there, is that as an employer has 10 days to respond once somebody makes a file, a claim, makes a claim. It's important, very important, for that employer to go ahead and respond so that that application can continue to move forward from that standpoint. And those other ones that are normally not what we would call non-traditional unemployment insurance available, those 1099s, the subcontractors, those Uber and Lyft drivers, church employees, for example, normally they're not paying into that system. So those are most likely, when they're sent in, when those claims are sent in, they may get something that says, pending or something like that. So that is because the CARES Act, all of those guidelines and all the information and that system has not been completely set up yet for them to be able to move forward from that standpoint. But once those parameters of that CARES Act is in place, I think you'll see that moving completely forward from that standpoint. And I would say, Joanne, that and I had that figure somewhere of how much money, it's over $10 million to $12 million that have been sent out. So the system is working its to the best of its ability, and will continue to. Matter of fact, they paid out $14 million in COVID-related state unemployment insurance benefits and stuff, and they emphasize that the federal funds, the $600 per week, they've not been paid out yet, but they will be provided retroactive too. So they will be what you would call a catch up. So it won't be that you're just going from that week forward. So if you applied last week or week before, and that's when you're deemed eligible, once those CARE Act $600 per week gets approved and it starts moving, you'll go back and capture those weeks as well, is the way I understand the program. And that will be helpful to the folks that need the help.
That's excellent. And if we can, Senator, just double back really quick in regard to the $600 a week, because that was some good information, for as is everything. But so 1099 folks, people that are not actively paying taxes into the system, they may not qualify for the state part, which is the 42 to the 326, but they can 326, but they can expect the federal 600 per week. Now, for those folks that have been furloughed or laid off, say, they may expect up to $926 a week. Is that correct?
Depending on their income. So that $42 to $326 is a formula, depend on their income. So yes, so they could expect up to that based on their wages, because that's based on their wages is what's being paid in to the what I would call the regular unemployment insurance programs based off of their wages. So it would be based off of those wages on the state. Well, I say it's the state part, but it's the state administered program from that standpoint. So it would be a floor of the $600 plus then whatever the other part that they would be eligible for. I hope that's clear enough for you.
It is. And I just want to make sure I'm going to drill that down even a little bit more, because
Sure.
There's people who say, well, I was making $8 an hour. So does that mean that I will be making now $23 an hour for those 16 weeks on unemployment? I think that's one of the things that are swirling around that people need clarification on.
Yeah. And I don't know if I can completely clarify. Maybe we can get a couple of examples. I'll reach out to the department and maybe on our next program. But what I would say to that is, the way I look at that, if they're eligible and get to have the federal program, that is a flat $600. So that is not based on their wages, at least the way I understand and the way that that program is being envisioned. So you could have somebody that has been making $10 an hour that's going to get the $600 if they qualify, and most likely they will qualify for the federal CARES Act potential. So that's actually, if you break that down, that's $15 an hour.
Okay, perfect.
And that's without any, there's no taxes taken out of that. So there's no Social Security, no state income tax or anything that's taken out. At least that's the way I understand. That's the intent of the program. That will be a flat $600 that will be coming to those. And that's the reason they put that category in there for those that operate as a subcontractor, a 1099 employee, or other subcontractors, or the Uber and the Lyft drivers. All of those will be, being they're not paying into that normal uninsurance program, they'll be eligible under the federal program from that standpoint. And it's my understanding that will be a flat $600 check that will be coming to them.
And Senator, do you know if there are so many people that have multiple revenue streams. So some people say work a full-time job, but they also own different companies. And if their companies that they own were affected by the pandemic and they were forced to shut down, do you know, and if not, maybe if we can look into this, do you know if they can apply for unemployment on the companies that folded?
Well, I think if they're out of a job as a result of that, I think it depends too, and it's not only just the 1099s, but it could be the self-employed from that standpoint. So I think it would be under those categories. If I was them, I would go ahead and file. I think again, the system is overwhelmed, but I think it would be valuable for them, and we'll get some follow-up on that. But I would, out of the caution, I would go ahead and file for those benefits and see. And that does bring up another category though, and the agency, they do audit these things. And so if you've got somebody that's got wages and they're working part-time or say the employer brings them back for part-time and they're still drawing their other, then if they can make up to 25%, the way I understand the program, they can make up to 25% of their benefits without it having an impact on their benefit. But once they make over 25%, then there is a reduction in those benefits. And so there needs to be, that is a reporting issue that will be on them from that standpoint. And this will be reconciled at some point. It may be a year or two from now, but it certainly will be reconciled. And so if there are overpayments, then they will be expected to remit those at some point down the road. So we do have to be cautious that we, and all this. And I think that's another point that probably getting back to, if you have multiple revenue sources, that's where probably that system is based on your Social Security number. So once it goes through that portal up that the feds have through that probably they're going to be matching those Social Security numbers so that you're not going to have somebody with multiple accounts from that standpoint. I mean, obviously I think that the intent of the program at the national level was to make sure that there was some assistance to help people, and that was determined to be $600 in unemployment per person, not necessarily per job, but per person from that standpoint.
And is there a separate application process to receive that $600, or is it just automatically comes if you've applied for the benefits?
You go through the same portal it's administered by the Department of Employment and Workforce from that standpoint. And that's another thing that the feds, I think, have done is they've tried to use mechanisms that are already in place, programs not only here, but providing other funds to different programs, Department of to the governor and different things of that nature. They're trying to use programs that are already in place. That makes it quicker to get those monies back into where it needs to go from that standpoint. So there is just one portal. In fact, let me make sure, and I've got that here, that they need to go to that website, and it can be difficult to do from that standpoint, but it is an online process. It's not an in-person process. It is an online process. And they encourage you to do it, if at all possible, to do this on a computer as opposed to a smartphone, that it certainly improves their ability of getting through. And there are things that you will need to complete that application online as well. And you need your last pay stub, you need your dates of employment, you'll need your wages for the last 18 months, and a driver's license. And then you would visit www.dew.sc.gov and then click on that link that says file a claim. So all claims go through that portal of dew.sc.gov. And then you'll get the prompts. Now they do have a toll-free number, but I will assure you that they have a tremendous high volume call right now. And then I would encourage folks, they have a lot of questions and answers, frequently answers and questions on the website, the dew.sc.gov, that are probably could be answered, a lot of those, rather than having to do the dial-in for that from that standpoint.
Okay. If we can go back just for a second, because you touched on this, but their business owners, restaurants in particular, are trying to bring back maybe a couple of employees because they're trying to, continue with the curbside and the takeout orders and things like that. The question that came in was, can they bring a person back on, part-time, and then will that affect their benefits? But more than that, will it, the grant, the loan program that is forgivable, will they, if they do that, bring back employees, will they have to then pay that back?
I've got that question, and I've not gotten the response on that, but I do think that the grant loan program is a complete separate program. And I know, at least with some of those, that actually keeping the employees on is a provision of those that makes it a forgivable grant. So I would see that as far as my personal understanding at this point, but we'll get clarification of that, is that will not have a impact on the grant or the loan from that standpoint. Actually, it may be strengthening them from that standpoint. But now, as far as those individual employees that are brought back on, it could certainly have an impact on the amount of unemployment benefits they're getting. So as I get that answered completely flushed out, I will get that information back to you for you to disseminate, or either for us to do in a future visit like we're having today.
Thank you. One last question, because I know we're just at the end. I know you've got to get about your day. And I, again, thank you so much for coming on. The last question for the day is about the stimulus checks. People are saying that they're going to begin filtering those, or depositing those checks rather, into accounts as early as this week, and that process will be in batches. And again, saying the internet, which we kind of laugh as we say that, because this is why I want to hear it from you directly. But they're saying that the first checks to be deposited will be lower income individuals, followed by those on Social Security, and then higher income individuals. But all of the checks should be in our accounts by the end of the month. What is true about that, and what is untrue?
Well, and again, that's being done at the federal level versus the state level. But from the conversations that I've had with federal officials, and again, this has been, I know it's been a few weeks, and so we've, but for the federal government to move as fast as they're moving, this is quick for them. So I give credit to them from that standpoint, because once they passed the act, they still didn't have all the parameters or the guidelines, much less making the changes to the computer programs and things of that nature to get the checks out. So what I understand is that really it's not based on those particular categories. It's based on your relationship of how they can quickly get those checks. So those that have direct deposit or have have transmitted forms to them electronically, and they have that relationship, those are going to be sent into those accounts the fastest. So I think that's the categories that I would think, regardless of whether, and Social Security certainly is one of those categories because they already have that monthly relationship with those individuals. So is that would make logical sense that those would get in first and foremost, and those would impact people across the your income level if you're getting Social Security and things. And so then I think probably those that have the paper relationship with the federal government, that normally the way you transfer are going to probably be the last to get it. So what their intent is to get as many out as quick as they can to as many people as they can. So I think that's the parameters they're putting on from that standpoint. And the goal is, and it's a lofty goal, to have it all done by the end of April. So here we are at the 9th of April today. And so that's you know, and I know it won't be quick enough, but again, as quickly as the federal government is moving, I think it shows the magnitude of their commitment of getting those checks into the citizens as quickly as possible. But I do think they'll do that based on their ability to get it into those direct deposits and those that already have some type of electronic relationship with the federal government. First and foremost would be those individuals.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And again, Senator, thank you for everything that you do for us, for our community, for our state. I know that this is a very trying time for you as well. None of us, know exactly how to do this, but we certainly appreciate everything that you do and your willingness to come on and to share with us and to take time out of your schedule. We will look to do this again. I believe we're going to do this again in a few days. If you have questions, for those that are on the call, if you have questions, please feel free to email those to me at director@oconee-chambersc.com. I will send those to the senator. He will take a look and he will answer them again. Probably what, Senator, early next week, maybe.
I think so. And we may have had some questions today that we didn't get to, so we'll try to follow up with those too. So we're not, certainly want to respond to any questions. And also, if somebody has a question that they would like to direct to me personally, and it may be outside of this realm or other things, have them feel free. Anybody at any time can send to Thomas Alexander at scsenate.gov. Thomas Alexander at scsenate.gov. And so certainly I want to be a resource. I want to help anybody any way that we can. And again, together we'll get through this. And again, I can't say enough for all of the our health professionals, our first responders, our those in the hospitals, across the board, local law enforcement, but everybody is pulling together, the business community of helping our school district and providing the meals to our students, and just so many different things, and the things that are being done for our senior population. And as difficult as this is, we'll get through it together. And the Lord's with us, and will get us through this, and we'll be better on the other side, and we'll learn from this. And I think it helps us to appreciate how much public health and how, when things are going well, means to us. And I'm looking forward to, at some point, us getting this economy back going strong for our citizens. We had a tremendously strong economy going before this happened. And again, I would encourage folks for us to do what the governor's asked. It's been painful for him to have to make some of these decisions, but they're the right decisions based on the health information. So if we will just work as a team and stay at home or go to work, do those things that we need to do so that we can continue to flatten this curve, so that we're protecting the health and the well-being of our citizens, then we'll all be better for it. So thank you, Joanne, for hosting this and invited me. And again, I appreciate the chamber. Y'all have been a leader in helping all of us in this time. And I'm grateful to you for your work and for what you mean day in and day out to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. If you need any further information, again, you can contact the senator directly. You can contact me directly. Also, please remember to go to oconee-chambersc.org, which is our website. Hit the COVID-19 tab, and you can get to all the local, state, and federal agencies that way. God bless you. Stay healthy and well. Until next time.
Thank you.